Governor Brian Schweitzer, also apparently, I've never even heard of this guy,
Me neither.
but apparently uh, he's rumored to be running for government, for president rather. Although a Democrat from Montana, I didn't even know that guy existed. Um, you can't be the candidate that shakes down more money on Wall Street than anybody since, I don't know, Woodrow Wilson, and be the populist.
Oh, and again, that's exactly one of the arguments that the Pocahontas crowd makes, because Hillary is married or worse to Wall Street and is a zillionaire, and kudos to this guy who neither of us have heard of, but that's exactly the point that the Pocahontas crowd makes.
Yeah, exactly. And then MoveOn.org said this about her and her major issue. Income inequality hurts us all, and we need someone who isn't afraid to call out a political and economic system that is great for big corporations but fails America's middle class and working families.
Bingo.
That's not the country we want to live in. And Senator Warren, we believe you're the fighter to address the deeply serious problems we face.
And from their perspective, from his perspective, from MoveOn.org's perspective, they're exactly right as it relates to Hillary.
Right, exactly. And then in response to that, there's concern that Warren's voice in the primary would shift the Democratic platform even further to the left. Here's a political analyst, lefty. She probably couldn't win the nomination, but she could help to shape the policy debate.
And far be it from me to offer my analysis, but in every primary, both sides, Democrats need to run. Democrat candidates need to run to the left, and Republicans to the right. And the reason being that also generally there was a very low turnout in primaries. Those who do turn out are generally pretty fervent about which they believe, right? So
Right.
Democrat candidates who are to the left tend to do better early on. Hence, Barack Obama versus Hillary in 2008. And one would think, at least this one, that at least early on, if not through the second or third quarter, that Pocahontas would do fairly well in the primaries, Michael.
Right. Now, interesting. A former spokesman for Darrell Issa said this, thinking about Warren. It's almost like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Obviously, talking about
Right.
Hillary Clinton, and perhaps conservatives throwing support behind Warren at some level would be justified because she'll take some nicks out of the, or
Right.
to refer to something here, she'll take some chinks out of the armor of St. Hillary.
I don't think there's any question. And that's at a minimum. If she does not take her to the wire.
Right, exactly. Now, a different perspective. This is Senior Aide to Senator Rand Paul. Brian Darling said this, talking about Warren. She hates Wall Street for a very different reason than libertarians. Yet they both would agree that the bailouts of Wall Street were a gaming of the system. In fact, I have seen actually, and this is maybe it was clickbait for libertarian economic perspective. I've
Okay.
seen some quotes from Liz Warren about Wall Street that I totally agree with. And then I go into the details and I think, whoa, 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 whoa.
Well, as have I. And of course, we need not mention, because it should be a foregone conclusion, although I will, that she's a millionaire as well, makes all kinds of money. And these people just, yeah.
Yeah, interesting story. So another one, Mike, we talk about, California being crazy. If I were to move back east, I've just discovered a place that might be interesting to me to move to. It's
Dude, I'm
actually,
thinking Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, in fact, I have friends that live in Lancaster County. A buddy of mine, guy that used to work for me, actually, he was one of my crew chiefs for my insulation company. They moved to Pennsylvania, oh gosh, 7 or 8 years ago. Uh, and this guy has two guns on him at any time. He's got some sort of waist holster, but he also has a tiny little gun always strapped to his ankle.
Right.
Two
Okay.
guns.
Well, before we continue, by the way,
Yeah, yeah.
okay, I have to give you just a tad of a geography lesson as well as a demographic lesson. Okay. Because you're so far left. I mean, you live so far on the left coast. That would be the West Coast in southern sunny Cal. That one must not equate Pennsylvania with the East Coast. Okay, because you've got Pennsylvania, a lot of rural and mining towns, and you got a lot of conservative people there, man. So I'm just telling you to kind of maybe let's temper this a bit.
Okay, well, maybe I should, rather than say to the East Coast, I should say eastward, and that would cover me as
I
far
think you,
as my geographic.
I think you got it.
See, but here's the thing: living as I do, just hanging off right onto the Pacific Ocean,
Right.
anywhere from Riverside County east, I consider east.
Well, see, and I don't blame you because
The
that's
east.
I would probably too. So no, I'm just I'm messing with you, but yeah, that this is an awesome story, man.
Yeah, so here's the deal: is Conway Township, which I guess township is kind of like a city.
Well,
Um,
township, yeah, part of a city, a township, no, really.
okay. Um, they have been putting signs on all of the roads leading into the community. Big sign. It's so awesome. It says, "Welcome to Conway Township. This is not a gun-free zone."
I'm looking at it, and that is so awesome. And I'm thinking if you put the story on, because Michael writes our update, way he put together our website. So kudos to you, by the way. And I've told you before. But if we link to the story, that picture right there, I think will do well because we so often see this is a gun-free zone. So, dude, this is perfect.
Oh, it's so beautiful. And here, let me just go into the details. After residents voiced concerns about break-ins in neighboring towns, local officials decided to go on the offensive. Um, and here's what the supervisor said: "We take pride in what's ours, and we want to keep it." The township took into consideration research on crime and gun-free zones, and part of the information that they discovered, 50% of felons polled agreed that, quote, criminals are more worried about meeting an armed victim than they are about running into the police. And three-fifths of felons polled agreed that, quote, a criminal is not going to mess around with a victim he knows is armed with a gun.
Right. And, to the point about more afraid of running into an armed victim. Let's think about that in the context of a home. If, and we read, unfortunately, about this kind of stuff all the time, break-ins to homes and awful, terrible stuff happened from rapes to worse. If, if a home, in fact, this is genius, okay? And I might say, if a home had, Michael, this sign, and we've seen them, where they have them out front, but what if there was a sign on every window and every door of a house that said this is not a gun-free zone? Do you not think a potential harm doer would say, yeah, I think I'll move to the next house?
Absolutely. And oh gosh, it was a long time ago. I put up on my site. You've probably seen this before. It's a sign in front of a house that said, "My neighbor," says something like, "My neighbor is against guns, and I will respect their right that if you break into their house, I won't use my guns to defend them," or something like
I
that.
saw that. I did see that. There's another one, and it was a suggestion. I don't know that they did it, but out east, maybe somewhere, they whoever they were listed Congress people, maybe within a state, who were anti-gun and who wanted to put signs in all of their yards, to the effect stating that. So, we've joked about this before. I mean, the sign on the restaurant, the sign on the bar, no guns allowed. I mean, come on. Which one of these signs is more effective in saving lives?
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, Dan just said a township is a subdivision of a county, so it's not necessarily an incorporated city.
Exactly. And see, in Indianapolis, after Unigov, that was Richard Lugar, by the way. Marion County is Indianapolis. So a township, yeah, is a portion. So don't isn't it fun having Dan kind of like
It is so fun.
because Fitzgerald runs flack for us. He's kind of our wingman sometimes. Even and Dan, kudos to this because Dan knows there are people on that show up on my Facebook threads, and I'm trying to finish two or three posts. I'm trying to prep for the show, and I try to dip in, and lots of times I'll comment two or three times in the thread, but I got to go. And of course, you get ridiculed by the left when you got to go because they declare victory and make fun of you because they say you just don't want to face them here. Fitzgerald oftentimes jumps in. So, again, kudos to you, Mr. Fitzgerald.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I don't know, man. What about the Defense Department thing?
Yeah, why don't you hit it?
Defense Department official confirmed. We don't have time, do we? We got like 4 minutes to go. I can't believe the time flies, man.
Yeah, you know what, Mike? We're gonna have to come back to that because that
Yeah,
actually
we don't have
is
time to do that.
we don't have time to hit that. You know what we can do? We can talk real quickly. I just put up an article it's a good summary. Government regulations create a black market and smuggling incentives. An analysis done about cigarettes around the country
Right.
and the unbelievable level of cigarette sales within particular states that are a result of smuggled cigarettes. This blew me away. Guess the percentage of cigarettes that are sold in New York State that are actually in the black market, not subject to all the taxes.
Wow, that's a great question because this goes back to the death of the dude whose name escapes me, who was doing what do they call them? Selfies or not selfies, but the cigarette tax is being so high there that part of the black market is selling individual cigarettes. I would guess, well, probably not 50, 40%.
New York State, 58% of
Wow,
cigarettes are via the black market.
there we go.
Number two, oh, I say number three is the state of Washington at 46%. So the first thing that comes to my mind for the state of Washington is that's how they subsidize having no income tax via cigarette smokers.
Well, there you go. And living in Indiana, grew up in what was called the region, the Calumet region. We very northern part of the state on the Illinois line. An inch across the Illinois line were like multiple tobacco stores because the
Hmm.
taxes in Illinois were like three times the amount that they were in Indiana. So, I mean, this is just another example that people will get around exorbitant taxation by the government.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Yeah, interesting. And then the other thing that's kind of the corollary to it is the number of states, the percentage of cigarettes that are taken out of the state in terms of cigarettes going from a state to another state. Uh, Big surprise, Nevada and Idaho, that's where all the cigarettes are going from into the state of Washington, and then places like New Hampshire and Virginia and West Virginia, Delaware, leaving those areas going into the state of New York.
Yeah, not surprised. Just like, again, like Indiana, Illinois example I gave
You know, Mike, what the dollar amount in
you.
2013 of cigarette taxes across the country was?
I'm guessing if I guess it's going to be more. We're under a minute. How much?
$35 billion dollars in taxes.
With a B.
Yeah, 35 billion in taxes. So imagine what would happen if everybody stopped smoking, what it would do to the coffers across the country.
No kidding. And imagine what would happen if we ran out of time. We're within 10 seconds. Take us out.
Thanks for listening to The Right Mics. This is Hausum for Miller. We'll be back just after the news. Thank you for listening.